I am Gregory, and this is Pensane. On the table, we have the pen and ink combinations for the third week of my self-imposed 31 pens, 31 inks, 31 days challenge. I am having a blast with this, an absolute blast, exploring my pen collection and my ink collection. Wow. And finding out what works, what doesn't. I highly recommend this. Do it at least once a year. I recommend January. Yeah, so without further ado, let's get down to it. First, we have the Monteverde Regatta Sport with Octopus Fluids Orange, the Monteverde Ritma with Birmingham Pen Company Barley, the Monteverde Tool Pen with Kaweco Royal Blue, the Moonman S5 with Ferris Wheel Press Edwards Gardens, the Opus 88 Halo with Birmingham Pen Company Heron, the Online Vision, which I still need to do a review of, with the Lamy Crystal Agate, and last but not least, the Pilot Capless with Pilot Black. All right, so let's get to the scores. All right, here we go. All right, so the Regatta Sport, I would totally give this pen a 10, but the grip section really brings it down. It's very narrow and small, not to mention metal and a little slick, so that brings it down to an 8. The Octopus Fluids Orange, I love it. I love it. Shading from an orange to a red. Some amazing shading, so that gets a 9. The Ritma with a stub nib, a much better grip section on there. This would totally be a 10 if perhaps with a broad nib, although this one isn't bad. The stub nib isn't bad, but again, it has a metal grip section that's a little bit slick, so that brings it down just a notch, so 9 for that. Birmingham Pen Company Barley. I had issues. The ink was not wanting to come down in the pen, so then I had to prime it, and you see here it started flowing better. But even at this darkest, which that's when, yeah, it was just loaded up with ink. So that's not a true test of its color there. It's somewhere between these two. I like it a lot, but it's honestly too light to use on a regular basis, so it gets a 7. The Monteverde Tool Pen kind of surprised me. I'm gonna have to review this pen, partly because it surprises me in a couple ways. First of all, it never hard starts. Never ever. It's just always ready, and it actually writes beautifully. It's a bit of an odd pen, of course, because it's a multi-tool. But I don't know if you can see it over here, but that is its downfall. Putting the cap on is very fiddly, so that brings it down actually a couple notches. Otherwise, it could very well be at least a 9 and maybe a 10. Although its sort of oddity would probably prevent that, but anyway, Kaweco Royal Blue ink. It has some sheen to it. I think it's like a red or I think a purple sheen actually. It's not in my favorite shade of blue, so it gets a 7. The Moonman S5. This was a Christmas present from my wife a few years ago when I was very first getting into the fountain pen hobby, and it caught me completely off guard that she would buy me a fountain pen. And I I kid you not, it's actually an amazing pen. So that gets a 9. The stub nib is not the best, but it's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. So that pen gets a 9. This ink, I'm gonna have to do or insert a video of Ferris Wheel Press Edwards Gardens in some natural light, because I guarantee you're not seeing anything here. So in the footage, which I shall insert here, I mean, look at that. You have shading, you have sheen, you have shimmer. This ink is stunning, absolutely stunning. It's like looking at a peacock feather. If you know that kind of iridescent look. If you've ever seen a peacock feather, oh my goodness. So that's definitely a 10. The Opus 88 Halo. I want to like this pen more, but I tried, I think, 2 different nibs on it, and this stub nib is the better of the 2, but it's still not there. It's just a little bit scratchy. I think I've had maybe 1 or 2 hard starts. Not too bad, but yeah, I want to like that Halo more. So that gets an 8. Birmingham Pen Company Heron. It's like an understated version of the Edwards Gardens. Very similar in color, although you can't really tell it. This looks much darker, and I guess overall it is darker, but they're very much in the same color family. And I love this one as well. This one you get just a little bit of a sheen, which is a nice touch. So that gets a 10 also. The Online Vision surprised me. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I'm definitely gonna have to do a review. Yeah. I think, well, I mean, given what it is, it really, the pen should get maybe an 8. But considering the price point, which I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe is under the $20 mark. So at that price point, this is an amazing, amazing pen. So I bumped it up 1 just for that. So that gets a 9. Lamy Crystal Agate, I like this ink a lot, but I can't help but compare it to Kaweco Smoky Gray, which I think does what this one does a little bit better. And they're very, very similar. I'll have to do a comparison video of those, because I love gray inks, and these are very, very similar. So that, I think that would be a worthwhile video. So that one gets an 8. Then we have the Pilot Capless. This, if this had a broad nib, this would be an amazing pen. Definitely a 10. But the fine nib, which actually writes like an extra fine, because, you know, it's Pilot, that really hurts it. It takes a lot of the joy of writing away. It's like very utilitarian. Yeah. So that brought it way down to a 7. I mean, just trying to fill this in was a pain, and you can see I got a little frustrated. I was coloring outside the lines there. Yeah, yeah. And then Pilot Black ink, it's fine. It doesn't really stand out, so that gets a 6. All right, so here we are with the totals for the combinations. So the Monteverde Regatta Sport and Octopus Fluids Orange get a 17. The Monteverde Ritma with Birmingham Pen Company Barley gets a 16. Monteverde Tool Pen with Kaweco Royal Blue gets a 15. The Moonman S5 with Ferris Wheel Press Edwards Gardens gets a 19. The Opus 88 Halo with Birmingham Pen Company Heron gets an 18. The Online Vision with Lamy Crystal Agate gets a 17. And sadly, in last place, the Pilot Capless with Pilot Black gets a 13. But wait, there is a surprise in the scoring here. So without further ado, let's see the rankings. What is that? So the Monteverde Regatta Sport with Octopus Fluids Orange should have been, should have been in 3rd place, is that right? Or 4th place maybe? But the ink defaulted. The ink is still not dry. Okay, it's probably almost all dry by now, but I mean, it's been a half hour since I wrote this out. Yeah, so as a result, if ink takes that long to dry, it's worthless. So as a result, the ink gets a 0. So basically this defaults. I mean, it would have been 8 without the ink. So so that was a bit of a shock, because look at that, it's gorgeous, but it didn't dry. So then in 6th place we have the Pilot Capless with Pilot Black. 5th place, the Monteverde Tool Pen with Kaweco Royal Blue. 4th place, the Monteverde Ritma with Birmingham Pen Company Barley. 3rd place, the Online Vision with Lamy Crystal Agate. 2nd place, the Opus 88 Halo with Birmingham Pen Company Heron. And in 1st place, oh my goodness, yeah, there was no doubt here. The Moonman S5 with Ferris Wheel Press Edwards Gardens. That pen and ink combo is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And real quick, I have to mention over here, I believe it's Gary Eves that recently was talking about this pen, the Moonman S5, and he said he hates the grip section and that it's like a mosaic or sort of cracked ice, as they call it, green and blue and whatnot. He hates that, and I actually think that makes the pen. So it's interesting how people have different tastes, but nevertheless, the Moonman S5 with Ferris Wheel Press Edwards Gardens, wow, that a match made in heaven. So it's just stunning, absolutely stunning. All right, well, there you go. We had a surprise, which is very unfortunate because I do have a full bottle of that ink. I'm hoping that something just happened in the pen itself. I'll have to do further testing with it, or maybe just use it in maybe a fine nib, that sort of thing. Maybe use it in the Pilot Capless. I could see that ink coming out of the Pilot Capless. But anyway, there you go. This has been the 3rd week of my 31 pens, 31 inks, 31 days challenge. And I hope you'll join me next week for next week's results. And then we'll have a short week following that as we approach the end of the month. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.